You don't own me, remember that? A story about truth, silence, and the kind of justice that doesn't need noise. Her text came in just after midnight. The phone buzzed once on the nightstand, flooding the dark with that hateful blue light. 6 words, clean, sharp. You don't own me, remember that. I stared at them for a long time, then locked the screen. No anger, no reply. Just a slow exhale in the dark. She was out again. With friends. That excuse had stopped meaning anything months ago. She didn't wear her ring anymore. Didn't pretend to check in. And I'd stopped pretending to believe her. I got up, poured a glass of water, and sat by the window. The neighbor's porch light flickered. The silence was heavier than any argument. That's when I took a screenshot of her message. Not for proof, I had plenty of that. But because of who I planned to send it to. Her father, Richard. The man who once told me on my wedding day, hand on my shoulder, "If she ever crosses you, son, you come to me." He meant it. And I never wanted to be the one to use those words. But tonight I realized she already had. I typed nothing. Attached the screenshot. Pressed send, no caption, no anger. Just silence. She came home at 2 a.m. Perfume and whiskey filled the hallway. She thought I was asleep. I wasn't. In the morning my phone rang. Dad-in-law flashed on the screen. "Good morning, son," he said, calm, too calm. I took care of it. Then he hung up. I froze. A few minutes later, her car pulled in. Doors slammed. Footsteps. Keys trembling. She came in pale, eyes red. "What did you do?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Just poured a second cup of coffee. Pushed it toward her. The fear in her eyes said it all. Whatever she'd been hiding, he knew now. He called me," she said. "He said you showed him something." "No," I said quietly. "I didn't show him anything." "You did." Her voice cracked. Outside, an engine idled. Her father's truck. She turned toward the window, realizing she couldn't run this time. The truth had already done the talking for me. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. She moved through the house like a ghost, deleting messages reflected in the microwave door, hands shaking as she scrolled. When Richard said, "I took care of it," I finally understood what he meant. He wasn't just angry, he was disappointed. And that, from a man like him, was worse. At 9 a.m., she sat across from me. "Did you tell him everything?" "No," I said, reading the paper. "You did. You dragged yourself into it the night you decided to lie." Her eyes welled up. "He'll never forgive me." "He shouldn't." She froze. That truth landed harder than any shout ever could. Around noon, Richard walked into my office. He didn't knock. Just closed the door, leaned against it, and said quietly, "I read every word of that message." Then I called her. She lied again. He sat down, eyes wet but steady. "You treated her like gold. She threw it away for what? A thrill? Cheap validation? You didn't deserve that." I said nothing. He nodded slowly. "I told her not to come home. Not to the office. Not until she figures out who she wants to be. And if you need me, son, you call." That word, son, hit differently this time. When I got home that evening, her car was gone. The closet half empty. On the counter, her house key and a note. "Staying at Brooke's. Don't tell Dad." I smiled faintly. Brooke, whose husband she'd been texting at 2 a.m., maybe she thought she still had allies. I called Richard. "She's with Brooke." "She won't be for long," he said. The sun was setting, orange bleeding across rooftops. For the first time in months, I felt calm. Not happy. Not angry, just still. That night she called. "Dad said he's ashamed of me." "Maybe he's disappointed," I said. "No," he said, ashamed. Silence. Then, "Do you hate me?" I closed my eyes. Remembered her laugh. The woman she used to be. "No, I just don't recognize you anymore," she cried softly. And I let her. Some lessons don't come with comfort. Some endings don't need noise. When she hung up, I set the phone down and went to bed. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder where she was. 3 weeks later, she showed up. Different. Thinner. No makeup. No perfume, just real. She handed me an envelope. "The divorce papers, signed. Good. Dad helped me. He said it's time to stop pretending." "He's right." She stared at me, eyes full of regret. "You're angry with me." "Not anymore." "That's worse," she whispered. "Because it means I don't matter." I said nothing. She told me she'd been in therapy. Getting clean. Dad paid for it, she said. He always was better at fixing broken things, I replied. You fixed me once. You didn't want to stay fixed. The wind carried the smell of cut grass. When Dad called you son, she said, voice trembling, that's when I knew I'd really lost you. He called me that because I earned it. Tears rolled down her face. He said you're the son he wished he had. That hit harder than I expected. She looked at the ring still sitting on the porch rail. Can I have it? Why? Because I need to remember what I ruined. I handed it to her. She held it like it burned. Goodbye, she said, and this time she didn't look back. A few minutes later, Richard texted. She stopped by. I told her I still love her, but I love the man she betrayed more. I smiled faintly. You did what any good father would do. He replied almost instantly, No, son, I did what a man should do. That night, I sat on the porch, stars spilling across a quiet sky. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for closure. It had already come, and in silence, truth, and a father's call. Sometimes peace doesn't come from revenge or forgiveness. It comes from finally letting the story end.